Aibuan. So in this lesson, we are going to have a look at Cambridge Book 9, Test 2. So if you are an academic student, please follow through with this paper because it is for the academic students, right? Alright, so before we discuss the answers, as always, I'd like you to pause the video here. Please download the paper, do the test, time yourself for 1 hour, answer all 40 questions, and at the end of 1 hour, let's mark your answers. So please pause the video and take the test. Alright, so I hope you would have finished the test by now. So let's have a look at the answers. Test 2, Passage 1, questions number 1 to 13. Okay. Make sure the spellings are correct. The words inside the brackets are not compulsory, they're optional. But the words outside the brackets, they're compulsory. Okay. So it could be in either order, means you can have C and A as well. Okay. Reading passage 2, questions number 14 to 26. Please tick and see if you have got your answer correct or which one is wrong. Next, reading passage 3, questions number 27 to 40. All right. Okay, so let's have a look at the answers. Now, passage 1, children with auditory problems. Auditory means hearing problems. Questions 1 to 6. Which section contains the following information? An account of a national policy initiative. So, what are the key words? National policy initiative. Right? So, if those are your keywords, you will scan for those keywords, right? You will go to para H. The writer states that Objective 3 of the New Zealand Disability Strategy is to provide best education for disabled people by improving education so that all children, youth learners and adult learners will have equal opportunities to learn, right? So this is a national policy initiative for New Zealand. So if that is the case, then our answer is para H. So the answer is H. Second one, a description of a global team effort, okay? So your keywords are global team effort, right? In para C, the writer says, the International Institute of Noise Control Engineering, on the advice of the World Health Organization, has established an international working party. International working party, which includes New Zealand, to evaluate noise and reverberation control of schoolrooms. Okay. So, what do we mean by international working party? In other words, it means it is a global team. So, I would take para C. Okay. Now, as I always tell you, please make sure you have the paper printed with you. If you're doing paper-based, if you are doing CBA, computer-based assessment, then make sure you have the paper on one side and my video on the other side so that you're looking through it while I'm discussing. නිකම්ම වීඩියෝ එක බලන් ඉන්න එපා. මොකද එහෙම කරොත් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට කිසිම තේරුමක් නැති වෙනවා. මොකද මෙතන රීඩින් පැසේජ් එක නැහැ. මම නැති හින්දා ඔයගොල්ලන්ට දාලා තියෙනවා මොන පැරා එකේද කොතනද යන්න ඕනි කියන එක. So ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේක බලන ගමන් right pause කරා right පැරා C ගියා okay කොහෙද තියෙන්නේ words right okay. So what are the synonyms, what are the meanings, right? Okay, yeah. See the match? Okay, this is why my answer is wrong. I didn't get the keywords correct. Or I didn't get the meaning correct, and that is why it's wrong. Okay, go back and reflect upon as to why your answer is wrong, if it is wrong. Okay, if it is correct and you've got a good score, then well done. Okay, but if you're getting a low score, make nikama me, right, okay, parasi, don't watch. It's not going to help. What helps you is going back and reflecting, looking through it, okay, para 5, para 6, para 7, or para ABC, go there to the relevant piece of information and follow through. Okay, right, so here it's going to be paragraph C. Question number 3. A hypothesis as to one reason behind the growth in classroom noise. So, reason, growth in classroom noise, right? Let me just, growth in classroom noise. So let's go to paragraph B and C. That's our para. Why do I select para B? Because of this part. Education researchers Nelson and Solly have suggested that recent trends in learning often involve collaborative interaction of multiple minds and tools as much as individual possession of information. This all amounts to a heightened activity and noise levels. Hypothesis to one reason behind the growth in classroom noise, right? So yes, growth in classroom noise is heightened the noise levels. Definitely seems like we've got our keywords, a synonym matching it. So therefore the answer would be B. A demand for suitable worldwide regulations. In paragraph I, the writer argues that it is imperative that the needs of these children are taken into account in the setting of appropriate international standards and promulgated in the future. Okay, so here I think it would be I, because we're talking about worldwide regulations, okay, international standards. Seems like worldwide regulations. Next one, so what is your strategy here? Matching your keywords with the paragraphs. So if you haven't underlined any keywords, then we can't really match anything. So make sure always you underline the keywords. Hammer question එකේදීම keywords ඔයගොල්ලන්ට දාලා තියෙනවා. Keywords, as you know, are words that help you to find the answer. Remember when we were doing the different types of questions, I underlined the keywords. I went and I found the answer, right? So that time I had the reading passage, so I wanted to show you that, right? So now you have it with you, you have all the books with you, right? So therefore it's easy, and obviously the link is also there given to you, so you can download the paper, relevant paper, and go through it. But make sure you underline or highlight the keywords, okay? So question number 5, a list of medical conditions which place some children more at risk from noise than others. So what is it? Medical conditions place some children more at risk from noise than others. Let's go to para D, this bit of para D. While the detrimental effects of noise in classroom situations are not limited to children experiencing disability, those with a disability that affects their processing of speech and verbal communication could be extremely vulnerable. Okay, so when we say vulnerable, it means that it is at risk. Okay, so here is the word. So I think yes, it is a good match, and the answer is para D. Question number 6. The estimated proportion of children in New Zealand with auditory problems. Proportion, children, auditory problems. Where do you see it, right? the New Zealand Ministry of Health has found some research carried out over 2 decades that 6 to 10% of children in that country are affected by hearing loss. Answer is para A. When you're looking for that, proportion means number, so you will scan and look out for a number in your reading passage. Alright? Right, moving on to question 7. For what period of time has hearing loss in school children been studied in New Zealand? Okay. How long? It was in the same sentence, 2 decades. There you go. Your answer, 2 decades. In addition to machinery noise, what other type of noise can upset children with autism? Right? So, machinery noise, other type, upset, autism. Okay. Go to para E. The writer argues that autistic spectrum disorders often result in major difficulties in comprehending verbal information and speech processing. So usually some children, they say, have autism. Okay. So autism is like a disorder where they find it hard to comprehend the verbal communication and to process the speech part. Okay. Those experiencing these disorders often find sounds such as crowd noise and noise generated by machinery painful and distressing. So, noise is the other thing that will affect them, but which noise? The crowd noise. Okay. So, machinery and crowd noise both are kind of distracting for children with autism. Question number 9. What term is used to describe the hearing problems of school children which have not been diagnosed? So, term, hearing problems, not been diagnosed. Okay, especially for, I would say, school children, right. At the end of paragraph G, go and read it there. It is probable that many undiagnosed children exist in the education system with invisible disabilities. Okay. So, what term is used that have not been diagnosed? Invisible. So, we can't really see it, but there are some students that we can't see their disabilities, right? Question number 10. What part of the New Zealand disability strategy aims to give school children equal opportunities? So, New Zealand disability strategy, equal opportunities. And we're looking at the part. Okay. Go to para H. Objective 3 of the New Zealand disability strategy provides the best education for disabled people by improving it and giving them equal opportunities. So, which part? Strategy 3, sorry, objective 3. Okay. Alright, question number 11 and 12. Choose 2 letters A to F. Okay. So, current teaching methods, echoing corridors, cooling system, large class sizes, loud voice teachers, playground games, right? So, in para B, it says, modern teaching practices, the organization of desks in the classroom, poor classroom acoustics and mechanical means of ventilation such as air conditioning units all contribute to the number of children unable to comprehend the teacher's voice. So, current teaching methods means obviously modern teaching practices. Cooling system means the mechanical of ventilation such as like an air conditioner. So, obviously B, D, E, F are not given. Okay. B, D and F are definitely not given. Okay. Right. and obviously E as well, loud voice teachers. Current teaching methods are given, the cooling system is given, so the only answers would be A and C. So you can see if you pinpoint or rather scan and skim the proper place to find the answer, you will find it easy to find the answers and the answers are there properly. If you don't do that, then only you will find that you get all these answers all over the place, which then makes it difficult for you to determine the proper answer. Right. So I think we've discussed this bit. Moving on to question number 13. Choose the correct letter A, B, C or D. Right. So moving on to the next question, questions 13, right, onwards. So question number 13. What is the writer's overall purpose in writing this article? So you have to choose if it's A, B or C, right? Now, at the beginning of the text, the writer argues that hearing impairment or other auditory function deficit in young children can have a major impact on their development of speech and communication, resulting in a detrimental effect, that means you could even die, right, a killing effect on their ability to learn at school. This is likely to have major consequences for the individual and the population as a whole. Then, the writer details the situation of auditory function deficit in young children in New Zealand by discussing the reasons, consequences and solutions to this problem. Okay, so therefore, the overall writer's purpose is to increase the awareness, right? So we only have A, B and C, so I think we should just cut D off, we don't need D, right? So therefore, A, B do not represent the general purpose of the writer, but C talks about the increased awareness of the situation of school children with auditory problems, right? It doesn't really focus on noise learning and dealing with the auditory problems, right? So mainly it's focusing on C. So the answer is C. Questions number 14 to 17. Which paragraph contains the following information? Examples of different ways in which a parallax principle has been applied. Okay, so examples, parallax principle. In paragraph F, the writer indicates that John Franz Enck, director of Berlin Observatory, finally determined a value for the AU based on all these parallax measurements. Okay, so the AU is cosmic measuring rod and the basis of how we scale the universe today. The parallax principle can be extended to measure the distances to the stars. So the parallax principle has been applied to determine a value for the AU and to measure the distances to the stars. So the answer here would be F. Okay, because obviously the details are there in para F. Next one, a description of an event which prevented a transit observation. Okay, so event prevented transit observation. Now if you go to para D, the writer says, right, that the British were besizing his observation, right, and the French warship crossing the Indian Ocean saw wonderful transit. So prevented means ruled out any attempt at. So a description of an event which prevented a transit observation mainly was in para D. So I would take the answer as D. Right. Next one. A statement about potential future discoveries leading on from transit observations. So what are the keywords? Future discoveries, right, and observations. So I think if you go to para G, right, such transits have paved the way for what might prove to be one of the most vital breakthroughs in the cosmos, detecting Earth-sized planets orbiting other stars. Okay, so I think the answer would be para G, where it has the necessary information. Next one, 17. A description of physical states connected with Venus which early astronomical instruments failed to overcome. Okay, so physical states connected Venus with early astronomical instruments failed. Those could be your keywords. So if you go to para E and read through, while the early transit timings were as precise as instruments would allow, the measurements were dodged by the black drop effect. Okay? When Venus begins to cross the sun's disk, it looks smeared, not circular, which makes it difficult to establish timings. The second problem, so it was one problem, this is the second one, is that Venus exhibits a halo of light when it is seen just outside the sun's disk. While this showed astronomers that Venus was surrounded by a thick layer of gases refracting sunlight around it, both effects made it impossible to obtain accurate timings. So I think what is here is the description of physical states connected with Venus definitely is in para E. Okay, so the answer would be E. 18 to 21, match each statement with the correct person. Okay. He calculated the distance of Sun from the Earth based on observations of Venus with a fair degree of accuracy. Okay. So if you go to para F, the writer indicates that John Franz Encke, director of Berlin Observatory, finally determined the value of AU based on all of these parallax measurements. Reasonably accurate for the time that is quite close to today's value. So, distance from Sun to Earth, so who did it? John Franz Encke, right? So, therefore, answer should be D. He understood that the distance of the Sun from the Earth could be worked out by comparing observations of a transit. So, if you go to para B, he, who is he? Edmund Halley, realized that from different latitudes, the passage of the planet across the sun's disk would appear to differ. So, if you're looking at these kind of reading passages, they are very complicated. So, for you to do that, your skimming and scanning techniques are very important, okay? And then if you don't understand a word, deduce the meaning. Guess the meaning of the word by reading the above two sentences and the below two sentences, just so that you understand the word by looking at the context, right? So, work out means here calculate or measure, right? So, the answer would be A. 20. He realized that the time taken by a planet to go around the sun depends on its distance from the sun. Okay. So, if you go to para C, it tells you that the writer argues Johannes Kepler in the early 17th century had shown that the distances of the planets from the sun governed their orbital speeds, which were easily measurable. Okay. So, here the answer is B, right? 21, of course, he witnessed a Venus transit but was unable to make any calculations. If you go to D, right, fleeing on a French warship, crossing the Indian Ocean, Lee Gentle saw wonderful transit. He saw a wonderful transit, but the ship's pitching, the rolling ruled out any attempt in making accurate observations. So, definitely answer is C. Questions number 22 to 26. Do the following statements agree with the information in the given reading passage 2? Halley observed one transit of the planet Venus. Cut. So question number 22, Halley observed one transit of the planet Venus. So if you come to para B, right, the writer indicates that in November 1677, right, Halley observed a transit of innermost planet, okay, Mercury, from the desolate island of St. Helena in the South Pacific, right? So did it say, and then it goes on, nevertheless, he accurately predicted that Venus would cross the face of the sun in both 1761 and 1769, though he didn't survive to see it either, right? So Halley observed one transit. No, he didn't observe a Venus, he observed a Mercury, right? But he predicted it for Venus. So definitely answer is false. 23. General managed to observe a second Venus transit. Okay. Managed, observe second Venus transit. Go to para D. The writer states, undaunted, he remained south of the equator before setting off to observe the next transit in the Philippines. Ironically, after traveling nearly 50,000 kilometers, his view was clouded out at the last moment, a very dispiriting experience. This means that Gentle did not succeed in observing the second Venus transit. So he managed to observe it? No, he couldn't see it because it was too clouded. So the answer is false. The shape of Venus appears distorted when it starts to pass in front of the sun. Let's see. Okay. Venus distorted, pass in front of the sun. Go to para E, and the writer says, while the early transit timings were as precise as instruments would allow, the measurements were dodged by the black drop effect. When Venus begins to cross the sun's disk, it looks smeared, not circular. Right. So the shape of Venus appears to be a bit distorted. Yes, it's not really circular, but it's kind of a bit smeared and not circular. Distorted means that, right? So definitely answer is true. Early astronomers suspected that the atmosphere on Venus was toxic. Okay, suspected atmosphere Venus toxic, right? So in the passage, Venus atmosphere is really not mentioned. So I would say the answer is not given. 26. The parallax principle allows astronomers to work out how far away distant stars are from the Earth. Okay, let's go. Parallax principle, okay, allows astronomers to work out how far, oops, it's a bit crooked, how far stars are from the Earth, right? Go to para F. The parallax principle can be extended to measure the distances to the stars. Okay, yes. If we look at a star in January when Earth is at one point in its orbit, it will seem to be in a different position from where it appears 6 months later. Okay, it should be 6 months later. Knowing the width of Earth's orbit and the parallax shift lets astronomers calculate the distance. So can they work out? Yes. So the answer is true. Okay. Passage 3, which is the last passage, questions number 27 to 40. So 27 to 31, 27 to 40 means all, 27 to 31 in this part, choose the correct letter A, B, C or D. Neuroeconomics is a field of study which seeks to do what? Okay. Go to the first para and the writer says, these discoveries have led to the field known as neuroeconomics, which studies the brain's secrets to success in an economic environment that demands innovation and being able to do things differently from competitors, right? So here the answer would be C. 28. According to the writer, so iconoclasts are distinctive because their brains are different. In other words, their brains function differently, okay? So I would say the answer here is B, right? Where is the answer B? You need to go through the paper to see your options, okay? Right. 29. According to the writer, the brain works efficiently because, what's the reason? Go to para 3. It states, for example, when confronted with information streaming from the eyes, the brain will interpret this information in the quickest way possible. Thus, it will draw on both past experience and any other source of information. So, the brain works efficiently because it relies on previous events, and the answer would be D. Okay? Right. Question number 30. The writer says that perception is. So, go to para 3, okay, and at the end read it. More than the physical reality of photons and sound waves, perception is a product of the brain. Okay, so answer would be C. 31. According to the writer, an iconoclastic thinker is what? So go to para 4. The writer says iconoclasts, either because they were born that way or through learning, have found ways to work around the perceptual shortcuts that plague most people. In other words, an iconoclast thinker can avoid cognitive traps. Okay, so cognitive traps have been avoided, therefore the answer would be B. 32 to 37. Okay, the following statements agree. Do they actually agree to the claims of the writer in reading passage 3? Exposure to different events forces the brain to think differently, right? Go to para 5. It says, now here the keywords are exposure to different events influence the brain to think differently, right? Now go here to para 5. The writer says the best way to see things differently to other people is to bombard the brain with things it has never encountered. Bombard means keep on putting things encountered before. Novelty releases the perpetual process from the chains of the past experience and forces the brain to make new judgments. So exposure to different events forces the brain to think differently. Yes, definitely, that's what it means. 33. Iconoclasts are unusually receptive in new experiences, right? So if you go to para 5, it definitely says, it shows that they embrace novelty, new ideas when most people avoid it. So definitely new experience, yes, it is true. 34. Most people are too shy to try different things. If you go to the passage, it doesn't really talk about it. He says most people avoid things that are different, but do they actually try different things? Are they shy? We don't know. So I would say not given. If you think in an iconoclastic way, you can easily overcome fear, right? Go to para 6. Says, fear is a major impediment to thinking like an iconoclast, okay, and stops the average person in his tracks. So this means that fear prevents people from rethinking. So the statement is obviously meaning the opposite. So the answer is no. 36. When concern about embarrassment matters less, other fears become irrelevant. It says fear of public is ridicule, but I really don't know the interpretation as embarrassment. Still, we are not told if other fears then become irrelevant. So, we are not really sure. Therefore, the answer is not given. 37. Fear for public speaking is psychological illness. Is it? Right? Let's look at it in terms of the writer. He says in para 6, but fear of public speaking, which everyone must do from time to time, afflicts 1/3 of the population. This makes it too common to be considered a mental disorder. It is simply a common variant of human nature, one which does not let them inhibit their reactions. So fear of public speaking is not a psychological illness, it's just kind of something that people have, a human nature. So answer is no. 38, 39 and 40, complete the sentences with the correct ending. Okay. Thinking like a successful iconolist. Okay. Thinking like a successful iconolist is demanding because it, why? Okay. So if you read paragraph 7, the writer says to be successful iconolists, individuals must sell their ideas to other people. This is where social intelligence comes in. Perception is important in social cognition too. So it goes on, and if you read that bit, you will understand that the answer is A. 39, of course, answer lies within para 7, right? And if you read it, it says, in the last decade, there has been an explosion of knowledge about the social brain and how the brain works. So if you see this extract bit, right, very clearly you can see that the answer is B. And lastly, question number 40 is in the last para. The answer is there. So I think it's quite explanatory here. Usually the last 2-3 questions I like you to kind of review it because I've given you the review part as well. So it's fairly easy to run through it. So for question number 40, answer is C. And it's there in the last para. So with that, we have come to the end of reviewing our reading answers for Cambridge Book 9 Test 2.